Have you ever thought that maybe, just maybe, the best way to win your next D&D campaign isn't with some crazy powerful spell or some legendary weapon?
Interesting question.
But instead, like a total shift in how you see things.
Okay.
What if, and hear me out here, the answer is up in the air. Literally.
I like where you're going with this.
So, Aarakocra, those bird folk, in D&D,
Right.
they kind of force us to think differently. Not just in terms of strategy and stuff,
Yeah.
but like in how we approach the whole game. You know, it's like a whole different perspective.
I agree.
Makes you think outside the box, or maybe outside the nest in this case, huh? Speaking of perspective, I had this crazy moment in my last game.
Oh, yeah.
Picture this. My party, we're totally stuck in this thick forest, goblins everywhere.
Oh.
Talking, surrounded, things are looking really bad. Then, out of nowhere, Kavi, my Aarakocra monk.
Nice.
She just swoops in. I mean, she's got this insane 50-foot flight speed.
Right.
Leaping from tree to tree, just raining down these blows on the goblins.
Wow.
They had no clue what was hitting them.
Sounds intense.
And it made me realize, like, how much their ability to move in 3 dimensions totally changes a fight.
For sure.
It's not just about looking cool. It's a real advantage,
Definitely.
Reminded me of this article I saw in LitRPG Reads.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Aarakocra are the real boss race of D&D. Here's why.
Catchy title.
And it really makes you think, like, maybe these guys are more powerful than we give them credit for.
I can see that.
So thinking about Kavi in this article, it all comes down to that flight, right?
Yeah, that 50-foot flight speed's not just for show.
Right.
It lets them get past anything that would stop a character on the ground.
Totally.
Imagine, like, trying to cross some crazy mountains.
Oh, yeah.
Or getting out of a dungeon that's falling apart.
Yeah.
Walls, tough terrain. It all becomes way less of a problem.
Like they're playing on a whole other level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the article, it points out their talons.
Oh.
Those are natural
I
weapons.
never really thought about that before.
Yeah, so they're not just these graceful flyers. They can really hold their own in a close fight.
So it's not all hit and run from the air.
Nope, they're more versatile than that.
Interesting.
The article also talks about their bonuses to dexterity and wisdom.
Right.
Which is huge for combat and role-playing both.
Okay, so break that down for me. How do those actually help in the game?
Well, that dexterity bonus, it means they're super agile.
Okay.
Harder to hit because they have a higher armor class.
Which is...
Oh, sorry, armor class is like how tough it is to actually land an attack on them.
Oh, got it.
And they're good at stuff that needs finesse, like picking locks or disarming traps,
So nimble fighters and skilled outside of combat, too.
Exactly.
What about the wisdom bonus?
That's all about their senses and intuition. They're really perceptive. So they might notice a secret passage or a clue in a conversation that others would miss.
Oh, interesting.
And that helps with skills like insight, where they can figure out what someone's really thinking or planning.
So not only can they literally see things from up high, but they can also, like, read people better.
You got it. That mix of physical and mental stuff makes them really tough opponents and interesting characters to play.
The article, it really emphasizes how that flight isn't just for exploring or getting away from danger.
Yeah.
It gives them all these tactical advantages in a fight.
Totally. Picture an Aarakocra rogue, like, diving down from the ceiling to ambush someone.
Oh, wow.
Or a ranger shooting arrows from a spot no one else can reach.
Like they're their own little Air Force.
Exactly. And they can use ranged weapons way better than most because they can stay out of the thick of things.
Right.
No more worrying about getting stuck in melee with a bow and arrow.
So it sounds like the article's making a pretty strong case for them being like a top-tier race in combat.
For sure.
But are there any downsides? There's got to be some drawbacks, right?
Of course. Like anything in D&D, they have their limits.
Yeah.
One of the big ones is, well, tight spaces.
Oh, right. If they can't spread their wings.
Exactly. In a cramped dungeon or a narrow cave, those wings become a problem.
So they can't just rely on flying to get out of every situation.
Nope. And some spells or magic items can stop them from flying altogether.
Makes sense. There's always a counter to everything, right?
Right. So Aarakocra players, they need to be ready for those moments and be good at fighting on the ground, too.
So even though they're super powerful, they're not invincible.
Definitely not.
They got to be flexible and think on their feet. Or talons, I guess.
Ah, that's a good one. And that's what makes them fun to play. They make you think strategically and come up with creative solutions.
The article also says they're really good for certain classes like ranger, monk, and druid.
Oh, yeah. Those classes just work really well with what Aarakocra are good at.
Why those ones specifically?
Well, rangers with their ranged attacks are even better when they can shoot from the sky.
True.
Monks can use their agility and those aerial attacks to just become a whirlwind of, like, punches and kicks.
Yeah.
And druids, they can connect with nature while they're soaring around, casting spells from this amazing vantage point.
So it's not just about the fact that they can fly.
Right.
It's about how that flight makes those classes even better.
Exactly. It's about finding the right combo of race and class to make a character that's strong and fun to play.
This is all so cool. I'm already getting ideas for my next Aarakocra character.
Awesome.
But beyond all the mechanics and fighting strategies, I'm curious about the role-playing side of things. Like, how do you actually capture their personality, their culture, when you're playing them?
Right, because they're more than just stats and ability.
It's like we've only just scratched the surface of what makes them so interesting.
For sure.
Yeah, so much more to them than just how good they are in a fight.
Exactly.
If you really want to make an Aarakocra character that people will remember, you got to go deeper than that, you know?
For sure. Like their culture, their personality.
Right. What can you tell us about those things?
Well, Aarakocra, they're all about the sky.
Okay.
Everything about them, their culture, what they believe in, even how they talk. It all comes back to that connection with the sky.
I can see that.
They value freedom and independence more than almost anything else.
It makes sense.
I mean, think about it. Soaring high above everything, not stuck on the ground like the rest of us.
Right.
That changes how you see the whole world.
It's like they're looking at the wind and the clouds or something.
Exactly. And the article, it talks about using, like, sky metaphors when they speak.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. What would that sound like?
Imagine them describing a tough situation as a storm brewing on the horizon. Or maybe they're happy and they say something like, "My heart takes flight like a hawk on the wind."
I like that.
Even simple things like saying clear skies instead of good luck.
Oh, that's cool.
Just little touches like that can make their dialogue so much more interesting.
Yeah, it brings them to life.
The article also mentions adding bird sounds to their speech.
Oh, right, like chirps and whistles.
Yeah, especially when they're excited or getting worked up.
That could be fun.
It's a good way to emphasize that they're not human, you know?
Right. Got to find that balance, though.
Exactly. You don't want to overdo it.
What about their culture? Like rituals and stuff. The article talks about those, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Imagine, like, an Aarakocra doing this elaborate sky dance before a battle, asking the winds to guide their attacks.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe they offer a prayer to the spirits of the air.
That's really cool.
It gives other players a look into this whole other way of seeing things.
And their history.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about ancient conflicts.
Right. The article talks about them fighting elemental forces and being guardians of the skies.
So much cool lore to explore.
Totally. What if there was a campaign where the players had to stop this powerful air elemental from waking up?
Ooh, interesting.
And the Aarakocra are the only ones who can do it.
I like that.
Or maybe they have to get back this sacred artifact that was stolen from a sky temple.
Epic.
Right. So many possibilities.
What if different Aarakocra tribes had different beliefs and alliances?
Oh, that's a great idea. Like, maybe there's this big political struggle happening in the elemental plane of air, and the players get caught in the middle.
Or they discover some conspiracy that threatens the balance between the material world and the plane of air.
Ooh, that's good. The possibilities are endless.
And the article even suggests coming up with your own customs and traditions for different tribes.
Right. You can create your own little corner of the Aarakocra world.
Like a hidden city in the clouds built into floating mountains.
Wow, that's amazing.
Maybe they've developed some crazy technology because they've mastered the air.
Or a nomadic tribe that travels the world on these giant skyships.
I love that. A sky ships.
Right. Passing down their stories and legends from generation to generation.
A campaign where you get to explore all these different Aarakocra settlements and learn about their cultures, that would be incredible.
They would add so much to the world.
And you'd get to meet all kinds of Aarakocra characters.
Exactly, from artisans to wise elders to powerful warriors.
I'm starting to see why the article calls them the boss race of D&D.
Yeah.
It's more than just the stats and abilities.
It's just a whole new way to experience the game.
They really embody that sense of adventure and exploration that D&D is all about.
Totally. They make you want to see what's over the horizon, embrace the unknown, and reach for the sky.
And they remind us that sometimes the best solutions come from looking at things differently.
Right.
Who would have thought that bird people could inspire such cool stories and gameplay?
It's amazing what fantasy can do. It makes us rethink what's possible and pushes our imaginations.
And it shows that even in a world with magic and all this crazy stuff, there's no limit to creativity.
Exactly. Speaking of limits, I feel like we could talk about Aarakocra forever.
I know, right?
But we should probably wrap things up soon.
Yeah, you're right. We've covered a lot, from their abilities and how to use them in a fight to their culture and all the stories you can tell with them.
Definitely.
But before we go, I want to go back to something we mentioned before.
Okay.
About balancing the party when you have an Aarakocra character.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah, because they can be so powerful with their flight.
Right.
It's got to be tough for a dungeon master to make sure they don't overshadow everyone else.
Totally. So how do you do that? How do you keep things balanced?
Well, one way is to create challenges that play to the strengths of the other party members.
Okay, what do you mean?
Like, if you've got a really skilled rogue in the party, the dungeon master could make a scenario where stealth is the key.
Makes sense.
Or if there's a powerful wizard, maybe there's a magic puzzle that only they can solve.
Right, so it's not always about flying being the answer.
Exactly. It's about showing how everyone is valuable and needed.
Hey, it's not just about combat either.
Oh,
It's about role-playing too.
So, like, in a social encounter, a charismatic bard might be the one to take the lead, while the Aarakocra could use their aerial view to give some helpful information.
Exactly. It's all about making everyone's strengths work together.
I love that. It's like each member of the party is a piece of a puzzle, and when they come together, they create something even better.
And the dungeon master is the one who puts those pieces together to make a story where everyone gets their chance to shine.
So it's all about teamwork and recognizing what each character brings to the table.
And realizing that having different abilities, backgrounds, perspectives, that's what makes D&D so cool.
It's like a little version of the real world, where people from all walks of life have to work together.
And it reminds us that we can do so much more when we embrace our differences.
Well said. On that note, I think it's time to wrap things up for today.
Sounds good.
We've talked about a lot.
We have.
And I hope our listeners have learned something new about Aarakocra.
Me too.
I know I have.
Yeah.
They're such a cool and versatile race.
For sure.
I can't wait to see what our listeners come up with for their own Aarakocra characters and stories.
Me neither.
But before we go, we got to give a shout out to what got us started on this whole deep dive.
Of course.
The article, Aarakocra Are the Real Boss Race of D&D, Here's Why, by Paul Bello, over at LitRPG Reads.
A great article.
If you're looking for more deep dives into fantasy and LitRPG, they're definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely.
And now, most importantly, we want to hear from you, our amazing listeners.
Yeah.
Have you ever played an Aarakocra character?
Or even just met one in a game.
What makes them so interesting to you?
Tell us your stories, your ideas, your Aarakocra love.
Share it all in the comments below.
We can't wait to see what you guys come up with.
It really is amazing how much you can do with just the idea of bird people.
Right.
It makes you think differently about what's possible, you know?
Totally. Aarakocra, they're all about that different perspective.
That connection to the sky.
They make you look at the world and D&D in a whole new way.
It's like they're saying there's always something more to discover, always a higher place to reach.
Literally and like metaphorically too, right?
Exactly. And that's a pretty powerful idea, whether you're playing D&D or just living life.
For sure.
Speaking of discovering, we've got to give a shout out to the article that started all this.
Of course, Aarakocra are the real boss race of D&D. Here's Why, by Paul Bello.
Over at LitRPG Reads.
Yeah, if you want to dive deeper into Aarakocra and what they can do, it's a must-read.
He breaks down their strengths, their weaknesses, the challenges, the opportunities.
For both players and dungeon masters.
It's really well done.
And LitRPG Reads in general, it's a treasure trove for anyone who loves fantasy and LitRPG.
For sure. Reviews, interviews, all kinds of interesting stuff.
Definitely check them out.
Okay, now for the most important part.
What's that?
We want to hear from you, the listeners.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever played an Aarakocra?
Flown through the skies in your games.
What was it like?
Tell us everything.
Your stories, your characters, your big wins, even your epic fails.
Share it all in the comments below.
Let us know how Aarakocra have inspired you.
We can't wait to hear about it.
So, until next time, keep exploring, keep imagining, and keep reaching for those new heights.
And remember, sometimes the best view is from above.